Hey guys, welcome back. So tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day as we have Chapter 20 of The Mandalorian Season 3 arriving. Keep in mind that it's only going to be 30-some minutes long. It's going to be more on the shorter end of things. And everything related to Jon and Dave. They are also preparing to make special announcements at Celebration, as well as D23 later this year. That's going to be a very big deal, not just for the roadmap, but also for the community. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that there's a lot of things happening between, Jon and Dave really trying to find an avenue to really turn Star Wars around. Ahsoka is basically described to be Lucasfilm's home run series, outperforming The Mandalorian by far. Basically, everything that they have been accomplishing with that show has been fantastic. They haven't had any setbacks, no delays. The story is really well written by Dave, apparently with the help of Jon. And we also have a lot of things being used from Legends in the Ahsoka series as well. Now, on top of this, we know that Bob Iger has been talking closely with the fans, closely with the community, and has been saying a number of different things about his ambitions, his goals, and everything in line with the future of Lucasfilm and Star Wars as a whole. Now, recently Bob Iger had something very specific to say about Lucasfilm, and why it does raise a couple of different questions. We're going to be tapping into this right now. Now, we know that Bob Iger is trying to leave a footprint or his own legacy in the Star Wars franchise. He wants to make sure that he is going to be the one that turns it around by, at the very minimum, 2024. 23 this year being, of course, is going to be a very important one, given that you have to focus on really creating that momentum, either with Mando 3 or Ahsoka, whatever it may be. They need to create some form of momentum that's going to pull in a lot of new fans as well as hardcore fans. Now, with that being put out there and said, given that Bob Iger is actively changing Lucasfilm as a company by focusing on hiring new talent and creatives, in a recent interview, Bob Iger was able to briefly talk about this by stating the following to the fandom. We were very happy to have bought this company in the early 2010s. However, over the years, we began to realize some of the faults and mistakes that we were making with this studio and how it was supposed to perform with the Star Wars movies and shows. What I can confirm is that we are in the process of laying off a batch of employees or a dedicated team to an unannounced project that I am not at liberty to say over at Lucasfilm, that will be replaced with what we believe to be very creative individuals that will truly succeed with this brand in ways that fans would never imagine. It's in my absolute best interest to improve how Lucasfilm operates and, more importantly, who operates it by creating these projects that we are about to begin working on very soon. And of course, this happens all the time in the film industry. Sometimes you need to let people go and look for new talent, and other times you have to take and make those risky chances to succeed. And we are very confident that we will actually succeed with our most recent changes to the company that we have been applying. Now, I want to stop here quick for a second before I get to the next piece of what Bob Iger talks about. Now, I think that this is all in relation, obviously, to either The Mandalorian Season 4, because we know that a batch of Lucasfilm employees were fired from that actual project because they were very loyal to Kathleen Kennedy. They were sparking creative differences with Jon and Dave, so I have no doubt in my mind that Iger is alluding to the Mando 4 team that initially was set up by Kathleen Kennedy back in, I would say, 2021, like the very end of 2021, like December of that year. That's kind of like when it was acquired. So this team that was fired and let go and is being replaced with a new one most certainly is the Mando 4 project. Now, given that Jon and Dave are also looking for a handful of new directors, they already have Peyton Reed all lined up for Mando Season 4, but they want other directors on board as well that's going to handle it even all the more better. Now, the thing about this too is that when you look at stuff like this, where Bob Iger is really trying to do a complete, turnaround with the franchise, it just goes to show you that he really is very desperate at this point to kind of give himself a better image, to give Disney a better image of how they handle not just Star Wars, but also they realize that Marvel needs to change up a bit. They've realized that after the whole Ant-Man and the Wasp movie really not performing that well, they really do need to find different ways to handle these brands. So anyways, moving on to the next big thing here that's even all the more important is that he states, "Our first step was to work closely with George Moore. A mistake on our part in the beginning, in the early years after getting Lucasfilm, is that we separated ourselves from the very creator of the franchise. And by letting go of certain teams at Lucasfilm who were leading these projects and getting hold of new talent, I can confidently say that we are aiming for more quality-driven series and films that we are very happy and fortunate to be working on right now, and especially with John and Dave, who have just been so wonderful to work with." Now, let me just pause here quick. Now, we know that Bob Iger is currently still on track to firing Kathleen Kennedy by this August. He wants to get her out after the Dial of Destiny releases, and based on a lot of the test screenings for the Dial of Destiny, it's not looking too great. Not that it's necessarily going to be a terrible movie, but it's not looking like a superb film, per se. It's not going to be a classic, or it's not going to be something that's going to be a box office hit. It'll do okay, apparently, but overall, given that Bob Iger is letting go of this Lucasfilm team and swapping them and replacing them with somebody or different people that are more creative and more talented, I think is great news. The fact that Lucasfilm is going under a makeover, John and Dave are cleaning up house. We already know that Disney is allowing George Lucas to take the head of the story group by 2024. There's a lot of great things coming out of this by Bob Iger, and I know I've said this thousands of times, but I never really was a big fan of Bob Iger, and I still am not to this day all that much. But, listen, I give him credit, I do. I gotta give him credit for allowing John and Dave to do whatever they have to do to really turn this brand around, and to really just focus away from Kathleen Kennedy, and to just focus on what they need to do to really tell great stories. So, Ahsoka, I believe, is still going to be exactly as it is said to actually be behind the scenes, is Lucasfilm's home run show. That's what Ahsoka is best described as. It is going to be like the show that's going to kickstart this momentum for the fans, because let's face it, it's all driven in the mythology, it's all driven by familiar faces that we all know and love, and a mixture of new characters as well. So it's going to really perform, I believe, 1,000 times better than Kenobi, because this time you have Dave Filoni writing the whole thing. It's not Joby Harold or anything like that, somebody that never watched the prequels or Star Wars movies. So you have Dave Filoni, who wrote this thing with the help of Jon Favreau and directing parts of it too, and I think that, it is going to be exactly as described, a home run for Lucasfilm. So anyways, guys, with that being all put out there and said, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.